In today's lesson, we are going to discuss about the trigonometric functions or trigonometric ratios. So let's start our lesson. So here we will firstly try to learn about the basic terms which are mentioned here. Here it is mentioned trigonometric. Okay. So firstly we will learn about what is trigonometry. So here it is written that trigonometry is a branch of mathematics that deals with the sides and angles of a right angle triangle. Which deals with the sides and angles of a right angle triangle. Okay. So in earlier classes we have already learned about the triangles. Triangles is a closed figure which has 3 sides, 3 angles and 3 vertices. Right. So we have already learned about it. And here there is mentioned a right angle triangle ABC which has 90 degree at its vertex B. So here the side AC and BC forms an inclination angle. It is mentioned here. It's called theta. Right. So here we have learned about the right angle triangle. So here comes the ratio. Okay. Trigonometric ratios are also known as the trigonometric functions. These are real functions which can relate of a right angle triangle of a triangle to ratios of two sides length. So here comes the relation between the angles of a right angle triangle and the two sides of a right angle triangle and their lengths. Right. So here we have a right angle triangle ABC, and AB is known as perpendicular. How we can name perpendicular? The side opposite to the inclination angle theta is known as the perpendicular, and the side which is adjacent to the theta is known as base. P for perpendicular, B for base, and the longest side of a right angle triangle is also known as hypotenuse, and H for hypotenuse. So let's take another example. Let's take another example of a right angle triangle PQR which is right angled at Q. Okay. So here if I would mention this QR as perpendicular and this PQ as base, so it's no worry, we can easily mention, and the longest side PR will be our hypotenuse. So how can we say that this is perpendicular and this is base? Firstly, in case of the triangle ABC, we have mentioned this as perpendicular, but we have to always remember and keep in mind that these perpendicular and these base is always decided in a right angle triangle on the basis of inclination angle. So in the first case the inclination angle theta was here, but on the second case of a right angle triangle PQR the inclination angle theta will be here, and in opposite of this perpendicular will be here, and adjacent to the theta angle base will be here only. Okay. So now moving on to the next part, we will certainly learn about certain basic ratios in terms of a right angle triangle, and here it is mentioned. Firstly comes the sine theta. Sine theta, which is whose formula is perpendicular upon hypotenuse. This is the trigonometric ratios, and we have already learned about the related angle of a right angle triangle to the ratios of two sides length. And here is triangle ABC. The length of the AB is P and length of BC is B. So we have ratios of the two side lengths. Okay. Here is mentioned is sine theta, whose formula is perpendicular upon hypotenuse, and opposite of which is cosec theta. Cosecant theta, which is also known as hypotenuse upon perpendicular. In simple terms, we can easily write it sine theta as cosecant theta. Okay, right? So sine theta is perpendicular upon hypotenuse. Here it is mentioned perpendicular, and here is the hypotenuse. So sine theta is perpendicular upon hypotenuse, and just opposite to that, if we take the reciprocal, here the cosecant theta becomes hypotenuse upon perpendicular. In simple terms, we can also write sine theta as normally as sine theta, and cosecant theta we can normally call as cosec theta. Right? So here next comes the cosine theta. the formula for cosine theta is base upon hypotenuse, right? And opposite, if we take the reciprocal, it becomes secant theta, and its formula is hypotenuse upon base. In simple language and day-to-day language, we always used to say that cosine theta as cos theta and the secant theta as sec theta only. Okay, and then next previous set we are going to learn about it, tangent theta or cotangent theta, right? So reciprocal of tangent theta is cotangent theta. Tangent theta stands for perpendicular upon base, and if we take the reciprocal, it becomes the cotangent theta, and it is called as perpendicular upon base, right? In simple terms, we can also write it as tan theta and cot theta. Let us quickly revise the basic terms which I have studied here. So the sine theta stands for the perpendicular upon hypotenuse, and the cosecant theta stands for the hypotenuse upon perpendicular, just opposite to that. We can simply learn it through a simple technique. Here it is mentioned, if we have this technique PBP and HHB, right? So P upon H is known as sine theta, right? If P upon H is known as sine theta, and B upon H is known as cos theta, and P upon B is known as tan theta. If we take the reciprocal of these, ratios, we will get another formula which are reciprocal to each other, right? Likewise, we can see that the hypotenuse upon perpendicular is known as the cosec theta, right? And the hypotenuse upon base is called sec theta, and the cot theta is also can be known as base upon perpendicular.